Greetings, everyone, from wherever you're joining us around the world. My name is Kristen Reardon McClellan, and I'm the Director of Education and Community Programs at the Vancouver Symphony Orchestra. We are pleased to welcome you to our first live virtual masterclass in a series of 4 with some wonderful guest artists coming over the next few days. The VSOI has kicked off this week. We are in I believe it's our 7th year now. And of course, given the global pandemic, we've had to be virtual for the last 2 summers, but we've really enjoyed this opportunity to make the best of what we have, and we are so pleased to have students from all around the world joining us. We have 106 fantastic young musicians, very, very talented group that are participating in masterclasses and webinars and group activities from around the world with our wonderful VSO and VSO School of Music faculty members over the next 2 weeks. And so today, it is my pleasure to introduce everyone to Henning Kraggerud, who is a wonderful Norwegian violinist and just a fabulous artist. And we have 3 of our violin students who are going to work with him today and who are going to play for him and workshop and hopefully gain lots of new tips and tricks and advice from such a pro. So Henning, thank you so much for being here with us. And I also want to say a big thank you to our sponsors for the VSO Institute. Huge thanks to RBC Foundation, to TELUS, to Stingray Music, to Newmont Canada, for all of your support over the years to make all of this possible. So our gratitude goes to all of you. Henning, welcome.
Thanks. It's a pleasure to be invited to do this masterclass. I'm looking so much forward.
Wonderful. And let's introduce our first performer, Jillian Yang. So we'll bring Jillian on board here. Good morning, Jillian.
Good morning.
Good morning.
All right. So we're going to listen to a recording of Jillian's performance, and then Henning and Jillian will have some time to work together. Jillian, can you tell us what you're playing today?
I'll be playing an excerpt from Beethoven's Romance in F major, Opus 15.
Fantastic. All right, let's hear your recording.
Sorry, is it me? But I don't hear any sound.
Just a minute, we'll work on the back end of this to get it to play.
Anyway, your bow arm looked very beautiful, so it was fantastic. And I've actually listened to this recording because I was sent it in advance. I listened to it 2 or 3 times, so I can still continue to teach if we don't manage to get it to play. But it will be much more, of course, fun for everyone to hear the recording.
Okay, we're seeing on the chat here. We're going to try again.
You do some absolutely beautiful things there, and it sounded also well now live, but the video recording I listened earlier was even better, of course, sound quality. And your intonation sense is very, very good, and you have a beautiful tonal production and a very free bow arm. So here it is, a lot of things to be very joyful about when listening to. My focus will be to just bring in sort of the history of Beethoven. Beethoven himself, he was known as an improviser of music before he became known as a composer. So he used to improvise, play in concerts, get challenges from audience, do a lot of things, and he was very entertaining. He, by the way, hated the metronome. So he thought it was the most unmusical device ever made, and he was known to fluctuate a lot with the tempos when it suited the music. So this kind of fact I mentioned because I believe that there is a different way of treating a piece like this, even freer. If you were to think of this just as like a part of an opera, a scene from an opera where you are telling a story, then you can let the dramaturgic part of that also influence things like tempo, which we generally in classical music world we are quite conservative. But I would encourage you to think a little bit different about it. Think, how would you dance it? How would you sing it if you thought of yourself as a stage performer in an opera or ballet? Also, some other small facts that, at least in my Henle urtext score, it is written alla breve, like the C has a line through it. So you can probably think of this as a subdivided two. So there is a way of thinking of it less in four, not so much 1, 2, 3, 4, more like 1 and 2 and 3. And this could also encourage it to become more dance-like. So I was thinking, of course, this information you could use to virtually anything. But what would matter is, what do you want? When I'm telling this, would you like to try different ways of playing it? And then you can later choose which one pleases you the most. So I would say we can select a little place. Do you have bar numbers in your music?
No, I don't.
No, but then from your sort of second entrance, where you start on the A, maybe try to play there again, thinking a little bit about the movements, and see if you can adventure sort of further away from the notation and think more operatic dance-like.
Okay.
Yes, beautiful. I already liked that. And now I will speak a little bit one of my goals in life is to make the music theoretic subject, like harmony, music history, analyzing, part of the practicing. So there is not like separate parts of the education, but that everything is part of the same thing. So in this passage, the first chord in the beginning of the bar is just a tonica, and then the more interesting chords is always on the second beat, if you think alla breve. So so one way of thinking these bars would be, rather than coming from the beginning of the bar, try 1 and 2 and 1 and 2. And then the third bar, you could maybe go through the whole of the third bar, because in the fourth bar you get the quarter sixth sort of dissonant, very important. So so if you were to think about that, in the first and the second of those bars, the middle of the bar is more important harmonically. Then move through the third bar to the fourth bar. Think like a dancer and see, does this bring you pleasure, or do you like the music better? And there isn't a right and wrong answer then, because it's millions of ways to play it. So it's all about the process. So try it again. Nice. And then naturally, when you try new ideas, you can also try maybe new bowings. So if you were to play this the other way, starting up, and then maybe do the original bowing with one bow through the third bar if you feel like it. But if you want to divide, you can still divide leaning the body in one direction through it. So like just let the arm change the bow. Try also, because I could see that you during this movement very often divided the bow twice as often as Beethoven has written. And that could also be an indication that our current tempos, maybe since the 1940s, 50s, has become actually quite much slower than they were known to be at Beethoven's time. So we could even try. So now we will try it really like a ballet scene. Try the same phrase again, starting up bow. Yes, very nice. So, do you know what happens with our hearts when we get excited?
We beat faster.
Yes, exactly. And yet we are taught in classical music often to keep the tempo. You will have conductors and teachers say, don't rush. Well, we know for a fact that they were rushing a lot at Beethoven's time. So we have sort of disallowed ourselves to do something which were usual at the time. So I would like to think a little bit about the difference between tempo, rhythm, and pulse, and try to use the sort of heart rate, the pulse more. So when you do something like in this fifth bar, this is an important chord, but then it could be quite natural to rush, actually. So you can find the harmonic way of it also, because the first one, this is the new dominant of D minor, and then it's just a D minor, and then in the third bar, it happens more. So we sort of want to get through the second bar. So I will tell all of you that sort of my ideal in music is the opposite from Robin Hood. You know Robin Hood from the sort of old English mythology? Robin Hood, he used to steal from the rich people and give to the poor.
Yeah.
But when we are speaking about harmonies in a piece of music, I like to do the opposite. I like to steal from the poor and give to the rich. There is a chord I like very much. I would give it more time, like this. Hari, but then just comes the tonica D minor. That could be a nice little chord to steal from, hence rushing towards the next bar. So let's say that this is in the middle of the opera and you're saying something really dramatic on the A, and then you run over the stage to the A. Try that right from the A.
From here?
No, from the A. The bit earlier, like the
Oh, okay, yeah.
and try this now again. And I would like you to sort of almost cross the line for what is can be tasteful or not. And it's very hard to know what is that line before you have crossed it. And right before you cross it, the line of what you like or not is usually where all the goodies are. So it gives the most pleasure when you are not crossing your own line for what you think is tasteful, but you're challenging it to find out where it is. So now while practicing, try the second bar you played now. Try really to sort of imagine that you're running through it. Don't keep the tempo. Be on the way to the third bar. Okay, I enjoyed that a lot tempo-wise, was fantastic. Now let's see if we can up the game. So when you play the first two notes, see if that you can feel sort of gravity in your body and pull the sound out of the instrument. But when we get to the second bar, be in some sort of emotional distress, more warmer feeling. So we get develop a story we can you sort of get mesmerized by. Good. So now the question is always when the teacher tell you to do something, what I would like you to do is to take it with a grain of salt. Sort of don't believe that I'm right. Rather think, what do you think? Did you enjoy this way of playing? If you did not, don't do it. Don't do as I'm asking you. If you did enjoy it, ask yourself why you enjoyed it so you can see if it can be sort of contagious and let you play other phrases differently as well. But I mean, would you even let me know? Was it parts of this way of thinking you think you can enjoy?
I think so. I think the idea of going from the second bar towards the third line, I enjoy because I enjoy doing that part. Trying to.
Good. So then you should do it because you enjoy it. Don't do it because I tell you to do it. This is the important distinction. Never do as your teacher tell you because your teacher tell you, but do it. Consider it. Is it anything in it I like? And if you do it for your own reasons, then it will keep sort of following your path, and you will not sort of try what did Henning tell me in the masterclass, try to remember, because you will remember what you like. So always do your preferred version. If I or another teacher some other time say something which make your preferred version change, you can still do what you prefer. So that would be the best. Now let's try the opening phrase, how the whole piece starts. Great. I think now it sounded different from the video recording, actually. So I think you have already started to change it. So I enjoyed your flexibility there, what you were able to do straight on like this. Very, very good. I have a few further suggestions for you to consider. So do you know the bass line of the cello bass line? Starts with the F and then a pause and then a B and a pause. So it starts with sort of two shorter beats. Yom, pom, pom. So it seems like we are on the way to the second bar even more. So could you imagine, or even step one step backwards and see if you can dance this while you are playing? Just to feel sort of the pleasure of dancing. So take 2 steps backwards away from the camera. Yes, good, like this. And see if you can enjoy now sort of walking towards the second bar while you're playing. Good. Now, I would also like, are you willing to try this in the 4th position on the A string and stretching the 4th finger up for this one? Just to see. And do the same. Take 2 steps backwards, but now a sort of gentler way of walking on the A string instead of the E string. So good. This already influenced it. Now, I am a firm believer that you can never, ever play better than you can think something. But if you can think it better than you can play it, then you know exactly what to do. So now you will take 2 steps backwards, but not play it. And while you're walking ahead, while I'm singing or something like that, now think. Can you think about the violin sound and the way of moving your body, which pleases you even more than what we have been playing? If you were did you dance ballet when you were little?
Yeah. Yeah.
Did you even want to become a prima ballerina? No? Good. No, but great. But think then I want you to enjoy the pleasure of moving. So take 2 steps backwards and think that you are a dancer. Do not play, but play in your head. And I will sing while you are dancing then. So if you can find in your imagination a sound and a phrasing which is nicer, then you can also find it when you're playing. So I believe we spent quite too much time with a piece of, basically wood and some metal strings under the chin and practice with that in classical music world. But what we should be practicing is something else. It is our imagination. So we can use better time when we are practicing. So what I would encourage you, because it's a very easy piano part here, and where I get my best ideas is when I actually and then I can actually take that ideas with me to the violin. So basically I found out, because whenever I got this violin under my chin, I sort of become perfectionistic, like, oh, I want to play in tune, or I want to play beautiful. And I lost contact with that voice. But here, like when I'm a troubadour, because I have no ambitions as a singer, nor like a guitar player, I can get direct access to my musicality. But once I have found what I love more than without the violin, then I can seek it with the violin also. But when I start with the violin, I very often get stupid and, stray a path, trying not to play bad rather than to express my true musicality. Do you understand what I mean?
Yeah.
I was very impressed by your progress, that you are very able to change very, very quickly. So my last question would then be, how meaningful do you want your life to be? How nice would you want it to feel physically to play? Do you have like an upper limit?
No.
So do you want it to be as meaningful as possible and as much pleasure and as possible?
Yes.
And then we must redefine what is practice. Practice is any way who brings you closer to that. So ask yourself, whenever you practice half an hour on a piece, do you love the piece more? Do you think it becomes easier and easier to play? Then you have practiced well. If it becomes more difficult or you become more perfectionistic, then there is room for improvement. So the trick is actually, the practicing is mainly, even the warm-up in the morning is to warm up the soul. And when I study the score, it is to find things to love, because when I have enough things I do love, and when I dance it and sing it around in my living room, I actually have a much stronger story to tell. And then it becomes easier to play. And you will see this if you look at Vilde Frangé and Nina Jansen, all the great violinists. It seems very easy for them to play. It is because it's very, very much easier. It's actually much more difficult to play less good. And it's easier to play very, very good because they have found a way where their musicality can help them. So you are able to transform very, very quickly. So now sit with maybe a piano reduction. Think a little bit about the structure, how do the harmonies, try to sing it in your head, dance it a little bit, and then see when you find something you like better, it will help you.
Okay.
So, great.
Thank you so much.
Oh, you're most welcome.
Well done, Jillian. One thing I meant to ask you at the very beginning was to just give a brief intro of yourself, where you're joining us from and what you're in school. What are you doing right now?
Oh, I'm currently in London, Ontario, so it's around 1 p.m. or 2 p.m. now, and I'm doing my school right now. Yeah.
Great. Okay. Congratulations.
It's been a pleasure to work with music with you. Yes?
Mm-hmm. So let's go on to our second performer, Samuel Sun.
Hello.
Hi,
Hello,
Sam.
Sam.
Give us a brief intro where you're from.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. I'm Sam. I'm from the San Francisco Bay Area in California in the United States, and I'm currently doing my undergrad in music performance in the Los Angeles area.
Fabulous. All right. And what are you playing today?
I'll be presenting an excerpt of the Bach Chaconne.
Great. And so we'll hear your recording, and then you can spend some time working with Henning.
Great. Absolutely, you have a very sort of powerful presence, and right from the start, you go in and you sort of take the charge of the energy. And I think lots of strong points here, beautiful sound, and one of the highlights for me is: do you have bar numbers?
I do. Yes.
Yeah. So when you get to bar 17. I had the feeling that you like this place a lot.
I do.
And this really showed. And you did some wonderful sort of changes of character, lightening it up and then getting back with intensity. And it works so well. So you showed me quite a few small details here. I've never heard it played that way, which convinced a lot. And in general, this was very, very good. So how can I possibly sort of be sort of helpful in some way? I will try to see. And the good thing here is now you can also rewatch the video later to see if you sort of agree about these things. But let me first tell a little bit about Bach. Bach told many of his students to extract the harmonies of his pieces and to compose and improvise over the same pattern as he used. Are you familiar with the B minor partita number 1 with all the doublets movements?
I haven't played it, but I've heard it.
You have like 4 movements, and each of them have a doublet built on the same harmonies. So you can that way see an example of how Bach makes a variation on his own movement. And if you want to try that with any of the other sonatas from the first sonata or the second partita, the earlier movements here, try to improvise over these chords, write them down on a piece of paper, or even compose a little piece. And one of the reasons I think this can be good is to try to find out what is sort of pillars of harmony, what is melodic content, and what is ornaments. What can be changed, and it is sort of still the same fundament. Which of the ornaments are more melodic than others, which are more just like trills and written out complicated ornaments. Now, there isn't a right and a wrong answer to this, but to be able to play even better or even different meaning in this would always mean take a little bit step back from it, re-look at it with new eyes, and then see if there's some way this please me more or can be combined with what I already have. So it isn't an either or. So one place where I think this maybe can be of use, and you can watch the video afterwards to see that, when we get to bar 57, which you play very, very convincingly, but here I sort of get the physical shape of what you're playing. Tom, 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 ta, ra, ra, ta, tom, tom, ta. But in a sense, I lose some sense of sort of the harmonies progressing in the theme. And I think maybe they could be combined. So if you now, and you could also watch your body there, that you moved quite a lot back and forth. Could you one time try to just play the top voice? Ti, tom, ti, tom, 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 ti, tom, tom, pom. Just play that voice and see if you can sort of lean through that phrase in one direction, not allow back and forth moment too much, but still sort of feel. Yeah, so try that first.
Sorry, I can't hear you.
Yeah, in that case, you can maybe follow pom pom pa ra 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 rom pi ra rom pom pa. So you don't need to jump to the top there because they change order. Good. Can you now try to play pom lom pom 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 pi ra ra pa pom pom pom? Also with a sort of more linear approach to it. Good. Now, I would like you to play very, very slowly, like if you were singing in the choir, and you play just to find things sort of to enjoy, like a several part harmony. Try that. Good. Now, I think there are elements of this which are really, really beautiful, and it should be possible to bring that into your interpretation. So it isn't the either or. So now try yum pom 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 pi ra ra pa pom pom, but have still while you're. So I'm often simplifying while thinking everything. So I would think yum pom 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 pi ra 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 pom 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 pa ra 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 pom. And it is like having a choir in the back of your head singing the harmony parts while you are doing the dance. So try to sort of combine that in your mind. Great. I think you understand perfectly well what I'm talking about. Yeah. Still, when you played it first, it had some sort of raw energy, just coming from your guts. It seemed like you without any second thoughts. So let's play a few bars earlier than that and see if we can get sort of the best of both worlds. Like the energy and joyfulness of the beginning, and still with that choir singing the harmonies in the back of the head in addition. So let's do 4 bars before. different. I think this was already really great. Quite often when I work with Bach or something like that, I like to try out different options, but I actually, on purpose, do not decide what to do. I just let it sift down in my subconsciousness and then hopefully pop up as inspiration in a concert. So what you planned, like trying out different ways of thinking it, you will gain back as inspiration later on. So I try to not sort of control the process too much. Now, from a more philosophic standpoint, since this is also in a way variations on the same sort of descending line, I always like to think of this as generations. So if you from the beginning present a theme, then you get the next generation of that theme. And in a way you can think of it of like the story of humanity, or spanning several hundred years, and you can move through it. And somehow that thought helps me in all the transitions and to be able to build up, because it's such a long movement. Yeah. So take a little bit from the beginning now and see if you can be. I already heard you played so very well. So just be in the philosophic mind, see what you feel like, try to be as present as possible in the moment of now, and obey whatever feels right to do. And if you then suddenly get, oh, maybe I should do this softer, stronger, move a little bit ahead, obey those feelings now, because you have nothing to lose then. I already heard you play it so secure and so convincing, but straying a path from that and then say, I have no plan other than being truthful to the moment.
Yeah.
Yes. Already from the B major chord in the middle of bar, is it 4? Bar 3 even. The middle of bar 3. I've never heard that played like that, and it felt like you were totally present. Did you enjoy that while playing it?
Yeah.
Because
I think I gave it a little bit more love that time.
It sort of it hit me in the stomach, like, wow, I haven't heard it like that. So I like that a lot. Now I also like to simplify and think of the sort of the main harmonies. I like to think of like a river. So a river who is there both when it's sunshine, in the evening, in the daytime, in the winter, in the summer. The river is always bringing water, and the actual ripples of the surface, how much wind it is, it always change. And I find if I try too much to control the shapes of the surface, it doesn't feel as nice than if I feel like I'm part of the river, and these things sort of can happen by itself, which is what you did a few places already and already did now. But to practice that, I like to simplify. So I feel, for instance, in the beginning, if you play like this, and then when you get to places and all of that, I quite often then don't play that. I would just let that play along in my head. Then sometimes I get wonderful ideas which might be quite difficult to execute. But my musicality tells me something. So if it should tell me then to play that particularly soft, I like to be able to do what my musicality tells me. So I would like you to try to develop the technique even further on to become sort of transparent. Whatever you feel, the body will do. Personally, for me, I found the fastest way of achieving that, which I do every morning, is to improvise. Have you tried to improvise?
Yes, not very successfully, but yes.
But how much have you tried it? Let's say altogether, how many hours in your life do you estimate?
Like in terms of Baroque improvisation or just improvisation in general?
Any improvisation.
Well, I'm also pretty into jazz, so I've explored jazz.
Okay, good. But in jazz, you think so that you already do?
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah, perfect. So I think then let's not treat Bach with too much respect now. Could you just play a little the bass line? And just think that you are meeting some friends doing a sort of a jazz gig or anything like that. Just play the bass line now without thinking a few times. And then start to think in your head, while you're playing the bass line. And see if you sort of get any new thoughts. So try just the bass line now.
Okay.
Yeah, and good, really great. And then continue from bar 9, but still also play just the bass line, just almost nothing, but think while you're doing that. Great. I actually think that line, when you play that bass line, in my head now, that sounded wonderful. Was it like that in your head as well?
Yeah, I think it kind of unlocked maybe a new way of looking at.
So the note we didn't play become nicer now when we didn't play it, because there is, of course, there is an absolute sort of mastery of the technical aspects when you're actually not playing. Then it's your musicality itself. Now, try now from bar 9 with all the notes, but do not exercise any control. So if it now starts to sound bad, still try to catch the feeling. Don't care if it's not perfect technical.
Yeah.
but we have this saying in Norwegian, which is really great. I think it's important to not throw out the baby with the dirty wash water. Do you have that in America?
I'm not sure.
So the trick here is if you compare the baby with your musicality, and then the wash water, the dirty wash water is sort of how difficult it is to play violin. Then you start a perfectionist, interpretation, intonation, playing in synchronization and all of that. And that gets better. So the water gets cleaner and cleaner, and you throw out the dirty water. But where is the baby? So that is, of course, no use to have clean water without the baby. Then the priority gets wrong. You don't have the priority wrong at all. But let's say that in your mind now, when you didn't play, the baby were thriving even better. There was even nicer feeling. And now when you try to remember that feeling, go for that feeling. Do not try to control it. So if you don't achieve it, just continue, but remember how it felt when you didn't play it, when you were just thinking it. So from bar 9 now with all the notes.
Yeah.
Okay, it is a very high level of playing, but still it seemed like this theme were even nicer when we didn't play it. Can you now simplify another way? Just play it. Can you play without all the double stops? Good. Now try with free bowing as if you were just improvising this at a jazz club, but the same melody.
Mhm.
Whatever you feel like, but don't plan anything. Just let it happen. Right now, bring that type of freedom into a sort of what you think is close to a style you like it, but still without double stops. And you can continue like you did if you prefer it this way, but but I enjoy that freedom when you sort of brought in the spirit from your jazz improvisation. But now, close to what you think you will enjoy in a concert. Right. Now, again, play just the bass line while thinking about if it feels even nicer, try to remember how it feels. Are you sort of leaning through? Are you sort of see what information? So just the bass line while thinking the rest. Good. Now, because of the double stops, I think Bach needed to write a few pauses here and there because otherwise it'd be played. But now you can try.
Yeah.
Just sustained bass. Yes, and if that was a cellist, were a cellist all the time playing that, she or he would probably like to do even more. But now we have to wrap up very, very shortly, but let's play all of that again now, all 3 chords. Try to keep all these states of mind in at the same time, and ideally just let it happen to your body without controlling the process. One last time then from this place. Great, you're a fast learner. Christian, I need to say one more thing before we move on. Now, I think you come very, very far in a short time. I don't think that all the elements separately to move on even further. I would consider a different bow technique because it seems a bit. So often I would practice in open strings. I would do something like. It seems like
Yeah.
of the chord is sort of still the final little steps. So try then to find a way to do these 4 string chords where it doesn't sort of hinder. So this would be the last steps to make your technique invisible, that it sort of fades away. So my goal is always for seeking the true technique is the ability to express what you are feeling. If you know better what you are feeling, you love it more, you try one-on-one part, then better and better technique can exist. Yeah. But even in fraction, when you practice this slowly, if during you get sort of technical, you must not lose sight of that baby even for a second. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Don't allow yourself to do something which is not coming from your musicality. Then consider other ways of breaking the chord, other ways of doing it, and you will find it. So you are very, very musical, and this got better and better in no time. So it's fantastic. So the trick is then change habits, practice differently tomorrow than you did yesterday, and your resets can go even further and become even quicker. I'm very, very satisfied. So
thank you so much.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Congratulations, Sam. All right, Henning, and we'll move on to our final performer today, Angela Singh.
Hello.
Hello,
Hi,
Angela.
If you can give a brief intro of yourself, where you're joining us from, and what you're playing today.
Okay, so my name is Angela. I'm 17, and I am in San Jose, California, in the United States right now. And I will be playing the first movement of Mozart's Violin Concerto No. 5 in A major.
Great, Angela. I enjoy very much listening to that now. I listened to the video before as well. Also, I think you have a very sort of fluent way of playing, and you make the violin sing. So even in quite difficult passages, it's always a beautiful sound. So you have great capabilities regarding this. Absolutely, some charming. I enjoyed the way you played, shaping it like questioning answers, and it was absolutely so beautiful to listen to. Now, I wanted to ask you, because I could see that you were doing a lot of legato bowings. Are they from your edition or from something you have decided yourself or your teacher, or and I have nothing against you doing more legatos than Mozart wrote if it's what you want. I just want you to sort of know of your options. So I was wondering what kind of edition you play from.
I'm using the edition Peters, edited by Marteau. It's partly from my edition, but also just like also what I've decided with my teacher.
Yes, and there's nothing wrong with that. I just wanted to know that quite a few places, if you are aware of what Mozart actually wrote himself, because now the manuscript is quite available, and the Berenreiter edition first is available also on imslp.org and other places. So as long as you try out these bowings, if you prefer what you did, I have nothing against that. I just want you to be sort of informed, so you know that, I mean, there is certain benefits to there is certain benefits to there is certain benefits to or so just so I'm sure that you make your choices based on actually choosing from what you like yourself most, is what I'm meaning. But then this is also, I think, good to consider whatever historic sources you can, but not feel that you have to do it. In the theater world, it's not like they do everything from a Shakespeare's play every time they play it either. So I think parts of classical music life seems to have an ambition to try to recreate exact the same circumstances as was 200 years ago. But of course, that's impossible because people's ears are different anyway. So there is no way to bring our ears back to whatever they were back at Mozart's time, or even, which is more than 200 years, of course. So my next thing I wanted to talk about is also some of Mozart's letters, which have inspired me, and also some of the contemporary of Mozart who wrote down some of his quotes. And one of the singers of the premiere of the opera Figaro said that Mozart had told him that if he were to live another time, he would have chosen to become a dancer, a professional dancer. And I thought that was fantastic. So I started to read a bit more about the dancing in Vienna at the time, and people were dancing a lot. I mean, several hours a day. And even the average citizen of Mozart's Vienna, they think we're as good a dancer as a professional dancer today. So it was a dancing society. And Mozart was hugely popular for his operas. He had actually to make small transcriptions of the pieces for wind ensemble and some other thing the day after, otherwise somebody else would publish his own operas and earn the money for him. So sometimes I grew up with Mozart being a little bit, not that exciting, not fantastically exciting, but, a little bit pretty and nice. But reading about it at Mozart's time, it seemed like they had a lot of fun. So try, when you are practicing this, to actually dance, to actually sing it, and see if you stage this as an opera or a ballet, would that lead you different places? So already in the first adagio, which is also not usually in the violin concerto, usually the allegro starts right after orchestra, but this little aria, you started off beautifully, but can you now play the upbeat to bar 3? Just play those notes. Yes, good. Now think that you are by yourself, maybe in the walking in the woods, and you are thinking that you are asking someone a question. And then you think what that person would answer you back. And this is, I think, could be the sort of text of the aria that some of the cast there are dreaming about the possibility. It seems it has some possibility. So could you try just to play those, the question and the answer? Now, try to sort of take some liberties. At this stage, you don't need to think about to be together with that. Just treat it as music by itself. Yes, and I think now do the same phrase in your head. Do not play, but just move along as if you were the singer while singing, but the singing is in your head. So walk a little bit around the room now. Yes, that's good. Great, nice. Now play it and see if you can be influenced that. So I think it's easier for singers because they can move and they have a text. They actually have something to tell also with words. But now we will try to steal those benefits from them. Yes, and now next time you are out walking in the nature somewhere, think about this theme, and at some stage you will find, oh, that would be a beautiful way to play it, and that would be the right way for you. But already I enjoy these various tryouts here now. Now, when the Allegro aperto starts again, it is A major for 4 bars. And then from 51, it is the dominant, like E major 7th chord. But during this A major, there are some notes which are not part of an A major chord. So you can see in bar 3, there is an appoggiatura there. And then in bar 49, there is appoggiatura for every 4 beats. So now I would like you, knowing what I told you about Mozart being such a good dancer and the society, he was so entertaining, he was so popular, people were singing his music in the streets, and he liked fun. If you think now, he's during this A major chord, this is all within A major, but then the first gesture, and then you have 4 leading to the dominant, and the dominant even starts with 3 8 notes like yabampa. So try now, and be on the way and think that you are Mozart now, entering the room. There is a party going on, and you want to have fun.
Okay.
Yes, good. Now, I think the 4th bar doesn't need accent in the beginning. I think it will be easier. if you do a crescendo, it may be something. So you understand? So it's somehow you could also try slightly less secure, more sort of more bubbles. Like if do you drink Coca-Cola?
No.
Do you enjoy any soft drinks? Have you ever drunk something like that?
Wow.
Carbonated water?
Yes.
Do you prefer it straight from the fridge with a lot of carbonation or in room temperature?
From the fridge.
Yes, like most people do. So now the equivalent here, I want, sparkling.
Okay.
Yes, that's the best we had so far. Now, can you say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5? Say it.
Like.
Yes.
It. Okay.
Yes, like we are in the kindergarten. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Say that.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Exactly that feeling I would like to have. So right on that bar, play. So the sense of being on the way. When I like it most, it's always 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Whenever it feels like 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, I never like it as much. Understand? Yeah. So we must be on the way to something or on the way from something, but sort of not too stable, because then it's predictable. Now, the next little phrase I would like to work on is in the middle section. Can you play from bar 118? Okay, now the sound was breaking a little bit apart, but I remember it from the video anyway. So here, one problem with violin, viola, cello, accordion is there is a lot of down bows, up bows, like two different motion. And sometimes when you want the phrase through all of that, we must sort of combat gravity, like down, up, down, up, down, up. And here I would like to also point off the harmonies. So where you start, that is a G sharp major 7th, the dominant of C sharp minor, which comes in the next bar. And then bar 121 is the same chord, but even with the abbreviatura, and then back again to the C sharp major in 121. Anyway, that means basically dominant, tonica, dominant, tonica. But it is a 4-bar phrase. I would consider the dominant got its name because it dominates over tonica, so it's more important. But the second dominant, that is a dominant with the appoggiatura. So if you were to look at those 4 chords, tonicas we know are not as important as dominant, usually, of course, unless you want to, which is always good. So think now that the tonica without appoggiatura in the 4th bar, that's the least important. And the second dominant is most important. And try now. And play that again. Yes, and now let's say it. So 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. So I need you to get through the second part. 1, 2, and 3, and 4. Now play it that way. Yeah, beautiful. Now this was example how we use harmony and a little bit kindergarten and counting and dancing to actually phrase better. So you were capable of playing that last phrase now even better than in the video. So bravo. And I can see you, Christine. Should we maybe bring in all the participants and
Yeah, I think that would be great. Congratulations, Angela.
Yeah,
wonderful
bravo.
Performance.
Thank you.
And we'll bring everybody back. And I think there are a few questions. I know Jillian and Sam both mentioned that they had a question for you, Henning.
Perfect. I don't need to stop directly on half either, so we can continue a couple of minutes if that's
okay.
Yes.
Great.
Just feel free to ask questions.
Go ahead, Jillian.
My question, I guess, when you're a performer, a composer, and arranger, I'm just wondering, like, how are you coping with the process of being a performer and a composer? Like, that's my question.
Yes, well, I like to combine things. So because I have so many things I want to do in life and there is a limited time, so I love to compose and I love to improvise, but I also need to keep in shape. So I use my violin while composing. I sit by the piano. I do a lot of things at the same time. I like to improvise with my students at the academy. So the trick, if you have something you need to do, can you combine it with something else you want to do? So for me, actually, each of these then helps each other. So when I'm in the middle of a piece composing and I'm totally into that process, somehow also the practicing benefits from that I get less perfectionistic in a negative way, more sort of able to sense directly what I want because I spend that time when composing. And so I would say too much to specialize too much can be, I think, a problem in classical music world. We went so far. They say about even Paganini that when he composed his difficult caprices and pieces, when he had composed it, he knew how to play it straight away. So actually composing is actually a very fast way of learning violin technique. So if you want to learn thirds, compose a little piece with thirds, and when you get into the creative process, suddenly your body are much better than when you try to control it with too tedious slow way of practicing. So the creative parts of improvisation and composing can also help you as an instrumentalist. So I believe that in a short time, like on piano, Chopin and Liszt, Paganini, the sort of virtuosic movement bursted out very quickly and people got extremely good to play. And all of them were improvising and composing. And I think it's no coincidence. So the slow way of learning is, of course, only to do sort of etudes and scales and, build it up very slowly. But if you can get your creativity going, I would say medicine like scales and Carl Flesch and these kind of etudes, be a little bit cautious about it. So if it starts to become difficult to play, see if you can obtain, good shifts and in a more creative way. So I would suggest all of you listening, try to improvise at least 10 minutes each day. Use your cell phone to tape it. And after 2 weeks, write down the best melody and you are suddenly a composer. It's not difficult to become a composer. It's incredibly easy. And in all other music fields, there are more composers than in classical musical fields. So I want you to sort of lower the entrance fee to the creative processes, so to speak. So for me, it's a great help. And for most of the students I introduce it to, it seems to help as well. So... and if you feel you don't have time, then try to combine it with something you have to do anyway. So if you are sort of earning some extra money, babysit then improvise while babysitting, they love it, for instance. Or instead of telling a bedtime story to a child, play a bedtime story, while talking. So anyway, I have been practicing with raising 3 children. So you need to combine things you have to do with things you want to do, and it seems to be can be very fun as well. So I don't know your life situation at all, but if you run out of time and you don't have enough time, then you must steal time from what you already need to be doing to try out more of creative things if you're not having enough time. Yes, and Sam?
Yeah, funny enough, I actually also had a question about you being a composer. I was just wondering, like, what your approach is when you're performing your own pieces. Like, do you have more of a sense of like liberty and freedom, because like the only one you can offend is yourself, right? Because you composed it. So, and has that like kind of transferred to music that you play that you haven't composed, that like same sense of freedom?
Yes, actually, it's a very good question. I would say, because I'm a composer and a performer, I have found out that I seldomly play my piece best right after I've composed it. But very often 3, 4, 5 years after I've composed it, I play it much better, because I've stopped thinking like a composer too much. And then also I'm just a performer, sort of being opportunistic, trying to, do the best out as a performer, being disrespectful to what my written text as of 5 years before, and doing whatever I want because I can change the score. And then reading about the old composers, they seem to give a lot of liberty, like Brahms and others, to the performers, much more than we actually use today. So this notion of the composer knowing best, I don't think so. I think to build a piece, the composer can reach a certain place, but there is so many letters saying a composer who composed a piece later hear a singer sing it and didn't know it was possible that the piece could contain that emotions, and are sort of pleasantly surprised by her or his own piece. So I do believe that working together, composer and artists can contribute, and the artistic freedom is something you need to take. So one of my favorite stories is the one with Toscanini and Ravel, which I've written about in a blog, which maybe Christine can post for you later or something like that. But anyway, Ravel went to Toscanini and said, "I'm very happy that you perform and conduct so much of my music." "Oh yes, I love to be ambassador for your music." And Ravel says, "But I think your tempos in general are a little bit too fast. Could you, maybe conduct it slightly slower?" And Toscanini replied, "Oh, it's funny you say that, because I feel the tempos are a bit on the slow side and I prefer the music to flow more." And then Ravel said, but play it anyway a bit slower. And Toscanini said, "No, I will continue to conduct it the way I like it." And Ravel got a little bit offended. And he said, "Well, then I would prefer you not to conduct my pieces." And Toscanini replied then, "Well, you misunderstand. I do love your music, and I will continue to conduct it the way I love it." So he didn't even care that the composer tried to prevent him from doing what he wanted. So remember that if somebody tried to shut the door on you, it's only you who can actually shut that door. So, but with most composers, they actually have in letters encourage you to do what you like most, to allow you to do huge accerandos, ritardandos, and there is countless of this, which the Urtext edition should print in the prefaces. So, but even then, it's you who will be on stage. So you must do something you love. It is your story, your emotions you can tell to the audience. So I think Schumann said it best. He said, when you are on stage, you should always love what you are playing. You should not play something you're not loving, but you should be curious to see if there are new things you could love. So there is like an option to move on. So I think any situation where you are sort of feeling like a victim and you feel, even towards the written score, oh, why did he write like that? I would say that type of liberty you should steal So if you feel like doing a crescendo in a sonata, and Brahms has written a diminuendo, then you would be dishonest to yourself if you do the diminuendo when you feel like a crescendo, just because it's in the music. And it's known, for instance, that when Brahms heard a Russian pianist play his Geistliche Lieder, and there is some piano chords there, this Russian pianist played it forte, and Brahms wrote that he filled the room with big, loud chords. That was wonderful. He enjoyed it. So I think in classical music, the sort of ultra-conservatism, which I think is part of it, that we need to do every dot and line of what the composer wrote, I think it's good to study it and to know about it. But what I think we really should do is to do like Schumann said. We should be on stage telling a story we do love, and we should not do something we do not love or sort of find interesting. But we should be open to new impulses to see if we can enjoy and love more of it. So then that means that don't put the blame on the composer. If you then play something and there is a little bit boring section, well, why doesn't more thing happen? And people say, oh, that middle part I didn't like. No, it's written like that by the composer. Well, try to be sort of responsible for the whole thing. So I think part of the music, like when we now play Vivaldi Four Seasons, like we do a lot of things not actually written into the score, but this could go on for other music as well. Take liberties. Don't wait for it to be given to you. Yes?
Thank you so much, Henning. Students, congratulations to each of you, Sam and Angela and Jillian, on wonderful performances today. And this masterclass will be archived for viewing later on the concerthall.ca. And Henning, we extend our utmost gratitude for you and your wonderful advice.
Well, it has been a pleasure. Thanks for inviting me here, and I certainly hope to be back to visit the orchestra sometime soon, because I had fantastic time the few times I have been playing with in Canada. So, and this masterclass, all the three of you, I had so much fun sharing music and thoughts with you.
All right, everybody, have a great rest of the day, and we'll see you soon. Bye-bye.
Bye.